Hello, this is Lee Anthony Davis here with my first ever watch along. I'm going to be doing Doctor Who's all the way through. Uh, Tonight, at this very moment, I will do episode one of The Unearthly Child. So I'll give you a few seconds to get your Doctor Who into your Doctor Who DVDs into your DVD player, so you can watch along with me. What I'll do is I'll explain what's going on. Because it'd be pointless me just standing there looking at the screen. So it'll make it more interesting to know what's going on. I'll spill some facts to you and everything as it's going along. So I hope you join me. So are you ready? We're going to start off Doctor Who episode one, The Unearthly Child. You ready? Five, four, three, two, one. We have liftoff. Right, we start off with the credits as usual. I enjoy the special effects done by Delia Derbyshire and Ron Grain, I think it is. We go. Moving into the very, very first episode. Amazing, isn't it? It was made in 1963, all those years ago. Right, here we are, the policeman looking round with his torch. Right, I'll have to turn the sound down because there's a copyright. But I'm going to explain what's going on. So I'm going to put it on, let's see, audio. Right, as I said, the policeman is walking around the yard, and it's got foreman. I can't read it properly because it's too dark. Because as you can get, something lane. It's coming. Yeah, the gate's opening, and we're going through it with the camera. We're meant to sort of look at it from the point of angle of a person walking through the eyes of the camera. But anyway, as you can see, there's some stairs there, a brush, and there it is, the TARDIS, the legendary TARDIS with the police public call box sign. And there's the title called The Unearthly Child coming up. And it was written by Anthony Colburn, the very first episode. Right, the camera zooms out, phases out, and we end up at Coal Hill School. When it phases back in, there it is. We've got two girls with Barbara behind them. And we have this sort of adolescent schoolboy admiring their stuff, but he's being sarcastic, and they're just whispering in each other's ear, and then they're gone. Now Barbara heads towards the classroom. She opens the door, and guess who it is? It's Ian Chesterton. And they're going to be talking about, obviously, let's see now. For what I remember this episode, they're talking about Susan. What's something not quite right about her, from the other students. Right, I'll just paused it there for a minute. I just wanted to sort of fill you in the facts of what's going on. Ian and Barbara are sitting down at the desk, and they are actually having a chat, obviously talking about Susan, as I said earlier. They're basically trying to say that there's something she does know and something she doesn't. She's backward in some subjects and well ahead of the rest of them in the others. And I presume he's talking about chemistry and history, physics, that sort of thing. So Barbara is going to give her account of what she experienced from Susan in the classroom right now. I think it goes into a phase away, fade off. At the moment, Ian is walking around and he's going to wash his hands, yes. The old school classroom, the chemistry set and the old sink and the obviously the big long spiral tap. Uh, I remember that very well. We had one of them as well. They don't exist now, obviously, but that's what we had. So now here we go. We're reminiscing. Ian and Barbara are going to reminisce. Barbara's talking to Ian. Ian's replying back. A bit of exposition going on here, you see. So you have to, well, they're moving around the classroom again. Ian's putting his coat on. Right, we're now where Susan is. She's got a radio to her ear, and she tries to come across as a normal schoolgirl, but she's anything but. I think I'll put the subtitles on so I can explain it a bit better. Anyway, forget that. I can't even see dog shit here. There we are. Subtitles. Right. She's going to say, this is where Susan says, I'll see you in the morning. Barbara and Ian leave the classroom. She's reading a book, and it is The French Revolution. And she's saying that is not right. So obviously she knows an alternative history. Ian and Barbara are now in their car waiting for Susan to leave. They've been following her because they're shall I say, very, very mystified on how this strange sort of child to them knows so much, but so little as well. And they don't know who her parents are, except she lives with a grandfather in a junkyard. So they followed her on. So we've got the exposition in the car between Ian and Barbara. She's talking about she's a teenage girl that doesn't know what the decimalized system means if, as we know it. She's got a different viewpoint on the decimalized system. She's actually saying that the decimalized system is something she already knows about, but it's not been invented yet until 1967. So they are sort of miffed on how she knows this and how she came up with this. Right now, Ian is going to talk about his experience with Susan in his chemistry classroom, and when he asked her to do a simple sum, and she said you can't do that because you have to add this and that. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. And she's questioning the whole point of the experiment. She's trying to explain that you need something else to make the experiment work, and Ian is definitely sort of miffed by her reaction. And Susan slightly turns her head round, knowing that the other classmates are sort of are all laughing at her, saying she must be mad. And this is when she gives out some equations and says, "This is what you need to do. You can't. You need D and E, which is to do with dimensions, obviously, because there's more than four dimensions." And then she says, Ian says, "What do you make of the fifth dimension?" She calls it space. There you have it. We took more exposition in the car again. The reminiscence is over, shall I say? And right, Susan's gone into the junkyard now. Now, Ian and Barbara, I believe, will be following her out because they're saying, "What is she doing in there?" So here we go. And what they're hoping for, she's going to be meeting someone her own age, like a 15-year-old boy or boyfriend or whatever. That's what they're hoping, but they think something sinister is happening to her, and they feel a bit worried. So their curiosity is to take them into a place that they never thought was possible. Right, they're getting out of the car now, and they're going to follow it into the garage, into the junkyard. Sorry, junkyard. Right, they're having a look around the junkyard to see what's going, to see if they can find Susan. Ian's flashing his torch around. And he's commenting on the state of the junkyard, saying it's a mess. What would you want it in orderly fashion? Would you? Anyway, he's dropped his torch, so they're going to use a match, and they're calling out Susan. Ian's climbing some stairs. Apparently, they're in a junkyard. Uh, we're coming to the point where they're starting to realise that Susan couldn't have got out any other way apart from the way she came in. Now they've clocked the TARDIS. To them, it looks just like an ordinary police box. But Ian puts his hand on it and says, "It's alive. Can you not feel it?" Oh, by the way, if you've got any comments to make, you can put them in. I welcome all chat, remember, but also remember to keep it clean. I'm sure I'll leave you to make the right decision on that one. To the actual episode. Now, Ian and Barbara have hidden themselves. They've just gone behind some rubbish, and now William Hartnell makes his first appearance as the Doctor. He's about to open the door, put the key in the lock, and then he hears some scuffling at the back, and he stops and turns around, and then Ian and Barbara reveal themselves to him, and then he asks them what they're doing in the junkyard, why they're there, and they're looking for, and they say to him, they're looking for one of their pupils, Susan Foreman. And we saw her come in here. But he wants to know, were you spying on her? And Barbara is convinced that the sound she was shouting to came from the junkyard because they heard her, or from the police box. Now, the argument is the Doctor says, "Don't be ridiculous. There's nothing in the police box. It's just a police box. There's nothing in there." And he says, "Well, you won't mind opening it, will you?" And he says, "Certainly not." He says, he comes up to the bit where he says, "You better go and get a policeman then, if you believe something untoward has happened." He says, and Ian would say, "Well, why we go and get a policeman? You slip out the back." In other words, do a moonlight flip. And Ian at the moment is saying, "What are you afraid of?" And the Doctor's argument here, now we know he's established himself as a Doctor, basically saying, "I have nothing to hide. I don't. I don't know who you're talking about. There's no Susan here. Uh, they've explained their school teachers, and you must be her grandfather. But he's been very, very uncooperative with Barbara and Ian at the moment. And he's also saying, I'm not hindering you. He says, go and fetch a policeman. And Ian says, why you travel in the other direction and disappear? But then they say, nevertheless, we're going to find one. And then Susan calls out from the TARDIS, and the Doctor tries to stop them. But the TARDIS doors open, and they stumble into there. If you remember the scene very majestically, where they come into it, and then suddenly they're in a different world. They're in a different sort of space. Now, Susan has just shut the doors behind them so they can't get out. And then the Doctor says, I believe these people are on to you, Susan. And the Doctor's annoyed with Susan because they must have followed you, he says. And that's why we have this situation here. Now, Ian and Barbara are looking around saying, I never expected time travel to be solved in a junkyard in the 20th century. And he's saying, it was a police box. I know, I walked all around it. But Ian and Barbara says, I think it's time we left. The Doctor is not going to let them leave. Give me one, have a phone. So anyway, the Doctor comes towards the TARDIS and is about to, operate the TARDIS. Ian and Barbara had no idea what he's actually going to do. At the moment, they're talking about this must be an illusion. The whole thing must be an illusion. The Doctor says you're here. He's trying to explain just because you can't believe it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. He says, I didn't ask you in here. You stumbled your way into something that doesn't concern you. By coming here, you have created your own problems. And the Doctor says, I don't have to explain myself to you. He's also explained just because it doesn't roll along with wheels doesn't mean it can't move. It's talking about TARDIS. But it's not a spaceship in the terms that they understand it. It can move up, down, forwards, like in the fifth dimension sort of thing. It can do all the movements that we can do, but even more. The dimension says the first one is freedom of movement, up and down. Second one is left to right. Third one is forward and backwards, and the fourth dimension is the freedom to move with freedom to move from within those dimensions. And the fifth one, as Susan explained earlier, was space itself. And just if you take those dimensions into space, and then you can create a new sort of door opening to other dimensions. Because what he's saying is, doesn't mean there might be one universe, but it doesn't mean there's it's one universe. There's an infinite number of universes with different alternatives added to them. Right, now this is where we come to a serious bit. This is where the Doctor refuses to let them leave because they want to leave now. And Susan's saying they won't understand. Let them go, grandfather. Let them go, because they won't understand. Their minds can't take it. As you can see what they're like. They're watching, they're looking, they're observing. See how they watch us. And Barbara is still not convinced. And Barbara says, can't you see this is all an illusion? Stop playing games, Susan. And Susan says, this is not a game. But she says, I love your school. I love being here in the 20th century in England. There's been the happiest times of my life. And then she says, Barbara says, you're one of us. And she says, I'm not one of you. I come from a different dimension. I was born in the 25th century, I think. The Doctor is smiling on smugly to himself. So, but Ian attempts to open the doors by going over to the console. But unfortunately, the Doctor's flipped a switch which electrifies the whole console. So Ian is going to get electrocuted in a moment. So he can't operate it. But Ian is demanding the Doctor opens the door. Then he asks Susan, will you help us? Very well, I'm going to find out myself. Watch this. Well, you can't. And Susan shouts, don't touch the switch. And Ian, too late, Ian has touched the switch and he's electrified, falls to the ground, completely numbed, but manages to stumble up again. He's only sort of briefly stunned. The Doctor will not let them leave because they might inform or complain to the authorities, which will force them to go anyway, but they're going to go anyway. Uh, um, she wants them to be released, but the grandfather will not let them release. So she has a go at them again and says, "Do you not know what you've come by coming here? You've done by coming here to Barbara and Ian." Looked amazed and just sort of flabbergasted what's going on. Right, there's a little exposition between Susan and the Doctor. Right, but he says, "I'm going to let them out," but he doesn't because he's going to flip the dematerialization switch. And then Susan tries to stop her grandfather, but it's too late. And now the TARDIS is shaking, whooshing, as it says on there, and Ian falls to the ground unconscious. The Doctor and Susan are on their way to another world. Excuse me. And we see from the monitor cameras, we're seeing the Earth getting smaller and smaller. So they're moving away from the Earth. And we see that what you see at the beginning of every Doctor Who, with the William Hartnell here, the credits, where you got this line sort of Delia Derbyshire sort of special effects coming into it now. It looks like it's been done with a gyroscope, the thing you look into and then you turn it around and it gives you all those patterns. So we've got a fade in by Susan back to the special effects. You can see, and then we've got a fade in with the Doctor himself, William Hartnell, and then we've got that whirly effect. Funny enough, they used that in the Daleks, with the whirlpool thing. So obviously the noises from the TARDIS engine. Now we dematerialize into Stone Age. This is where we leave episode 1. The Doctor stands still as the camera faces back to him. Ian's on the floor unconscious, right? He's laid out there. Barbara is out cold on a chair, so she's sort of relaxed like this on the chair with Marshall. Now we have the picture of the TARDIS in the distance with all the looks like sand, and then we've got this shadow looming up, and that's where it finishes. And the next episode is the Cave of Skulls. I will be here. I think I should come back tomorrow. I was going to leave it for a few days, but I'm going to come back with another episode from this fantastic first ever Doctor Who, The Unearthly Child, called The Caves of Skulls, episode 2. I'll be back tomorrow, but a bit earlier. I've also got my own show to do as well, so I'll get that out of the way. Also, I just wanted to mention my horror group has reached over 500 members, so I'm really pleased with that. And also, I'd like to thank all the subscribers that have joined my channel. So I've got 52 now, so I'm really pleased with that. I never expected to get any actually, but now that I've got them, I'm very grateful for them. So anyway, that's about it tonight. I'm really pleased that I've got 2 people in at the moment, 2 people. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Sadly, I've done the half an hour I wanted to do. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode with me. It's the best I could do. I wanted to sort of do a bit more, but giving you a bit more details about how the TARDIS was made and stuff like that. Usually it comes on the screen, but it didn't come minutes time. I have it ready for next time, though. I'll be giving you more information, not just talking about the episode, but on how they came to make those decisions on thinking these were good shots or bad shots, and that sort of thing. Anyway, I'll leave it with you. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and that is it from me tonight. So I'll see you tomorrow with another Doctor Who special featuring episode 2 of An Unearthly Child. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Whoops, I forgot the cursor. Bye for now.